All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything Cultural Podcast. Today, me and Nick here will be looking at the Myrtle Beach Bowl, 11 a.m., December 16th on a Saturday. First game of Bowl Mania on ESPN. Eagles 3.5-point favorites from Brooks Stadium in Conway, South Carolina. Looking at the offenses, Georgia Southern, to kick things off, a pass-heavy approach under Clay Helton, putting up about 31 points per contest. And this is a team that certainly is very productive through the air with their 285 yards per contest by Davis Brin, senior quarterback, over 3,400 yards this season. 22 touchdowns. Biggest problem is this guy has 16 interceptions. He's been incredibly turnover prone. Had 3 of them in their loss to Appalachian State in the middle of the season. He was just a pick machine. But so far, over the last 3 games, it's only been those 3 interceptions in that one game. Certainly, though, his completion percentage drops when he's not as aggressive. So Brandon's certainly a player that is very iffy. But they can air it out, though. Guys like Caleb Hood, 917 yards, 94 receptions. And then Derwin Burgess, very good receiving duo from the Sun Belt. He had 696 of his own. They both had 5 touchdowns each. Dalen Cobb, J.J. McCaffey, they both had 30-plus receptions and 300-plus yards. So this is a pretty versatile room. Anthony Queenley, even the Syracuse transfer, gets involved. Very talented running back in Jalen White, approaching 900 yards, has 9 scores. O.J. Arnold, his backup, has over 400 as well. So they have a nice, balanced approach here. Certainly love to see this run game get more touches, but sometimes the way this offense operates, and then when, if they throw interceptions and they get down in these games. So they certainly have not been able to really operate much out of the run over the last 4 games. Only 1 game of over 30 attempts, Nick. That's something they certainly want to change here against the stingy Ohio Bobcat defense.
This is a solid Georgia Southern offense. Definitely a pass-heavy offense. Doesn't really run the ball a whole lot. 4.19 yards per attempt on the ground, 5.69 total yards per attempt on offense. I think that Brin is a good quarterback if you keep focused. 65% comp rate's not terrible. 22 touchdowns. The 16 interceptions obviously is a huge issue for this offense. They're just turnover prone. They really just find a way to turn the ball over. I know Brin's got a little bit better with it towards the back end of the season and a couple of losses for this team, but he just struggles turning the ball over, and that's really a problem if you're a fan of this Georgia Southern team, or if you're picking this game for Bowl Mania. It's certainly concerning his turnovers. The weapons he has, I think Hood and Burgess are very talented players, 2 underrated players in the Sun Belt. I'm looking at Burgess especially, 700 yards receiving, 10.2 yards for grab, and 5 scores. Hood, 917, 9.8, and 5 scores for him. So I think this is a deep room with Cobb and McAfee, who are all talented as well. Anthony Queenley as well is a good player to have there. They all kind of have a few touchdowns each. They have some nice receiving yards. The rushing attack is a bit of a problem, right? If Jalen White can succeed on the ground, that can certainly help out this Georgia Southern offense and be productive. He's a solid back with nearly 900 yards rushing and 9 scores on the season. But like you said, they're playing a very talented Ohio Bobcat defense that is very strong and physical in the trenches. I do like the matchup for Georgia Southern. I think they do have an advantage passing against this Bobcat defense, but this is a very physical unit that could certainly win in the trenches.
Less than 390-yard game, 390 yards per game over the last 4. That's certainly something that's concerning. Nice left side on the offensive line. They like Brian Miller at tackle and then at guard. They also have a pretty good player in Pinchon Wembley. So this is a solid offensive line. They certainly aren't the greatest in pass protection, and the run game really struggles to get going if they don't have that game through the air. Looking at the Bobcat defense, or offense, that is, this is a team that only puts up 23 points per game, less than 350 yards per contest. And now they're losing everybody to the transfer portal. And obviously some guys will enter their name and still play. It doesn't appear that's going to be the case here. Curtis Rourke, their leading passer, 3rd leading rusher, not going to play. It gets even worse for this offense. Their top 2 running backs are departing, so they're down your top 3 rushers. I really don't even know who's going to get the keys. Maybe Quentin Carroll, Ricky Hunt, one of those guys are going to be getting the nod. Regardless, though, not much experience or production from this backfield. And even more, Nick, they lose top receiver Miles Cross. Tyler Walton is the 3rd leading pass catcher. Sam Wiggles, 51 receptions, 596 yards. He's phenomenal. Sam's a great pass catcher for them. Tight end Will Kamarmak, 22 receptions for him this season. Pretty solid there in that right as well. But all across the place, Nick, this wasn't a productive offense to begin with. And the guys they did have that were good, they're departing. This is just very concerning, and that's why you saw such a line shift here over the past couple of days.
This line has certainly shifted a whole lot, and you can understand why. This offense is just not very productive to begin with. I mean, they lose their top 2 rushers, and when they had their top 2 rushers, 3.75 yards per attempt on the ground. Just a bad number, below 4. Really not a number we want to see. 22.9 points per game, 5.18 total yards of offense per play. Just atrociously bad numbers here. And now when you list off the guys they're losing, like you said, Rourke, and then losing your top two running backs, Cross and Walton, big losses across the board for this offense. I don't know if this offense is going to be able to put up points at all against Georgia Southern. They're not a very good defense. We'll get to that in a second. But I just don't think that this Ohio offense will be able to put up a lot of points at all. You know, Wuggles is a fantastic wide receiver. I do think he's a really talented player with nearly 600 yards receiving, 11.7, and the 3 grabs. He's a fun guy to watch. And like you said, Karamak, the tight end, is a big, physical, nice blocking tight end who's got 2 grabs. I expect to see him targeted a whole lot here. This offense is going to struggle. Parker Navarro is going to be throwing to Karamak, who's a talented tight end, physical guy. I'm definitely concerned with this offense. I think they're going to struggle to put up points in this game. I don't know if they're not going to really have an identity on the ground because I don't exactly know who's going to be running the ball. This is what's tough thing when you pick these Bowl Mania games. You have so many opt-outs. It's going to be kind of tough to track. You know, Ricky Hunt, the true freshman, might be the guy to get the keys here, and we can see what he can do. He is a high upside player, but only has played in 2 games so far this season. This is definitely a tough look for this Ohio offense, and it's going to be tough to see who's going to be the guys to score points for this team.
Yeah, like you said, Parker Navarro going to be getting the start there. Only 10 passing attempts on the season, so they're down to a third-string quarterback, and then O'Shawn Ellison, Sion Bagnero, those are the guys transferring in the backfield. So it's going to be tough for them. They do have a nice offensive line. You know, at left tackle, Jay Amberger, he's great, and then at center, Parker Titsworth is phenomenal. So they have a pretty good offensive line, but not much talent that's proven playing behind them. Looking at that Georgia Southern defense, you know, it hasn't been a colossal failure over the last 4 games. It certainly hasn't been great. You know, they did hold Old Dominion to under 350 yards at home in a game they certainly should have won. But they've certainly been getting picked apart with some balance here. 236 rushing they allowed against App State, 130 plus rushing over the last 5 games. They've gotten completely scorched on that side of the ball. Secondary's been playing, you know, a little bit better, but for the most part, it's not really a polished unit. You know, the run defense overall, 155 yards allowed per contest. Certainly think they're a lot better than they were. They're like the nation's worst ranked run defense last season, so they've stepped up big time. It's led by guys like Justin Rhodes, Marquise Watson-Trent at linebacker. He's an elite player for them. Elad Fall up front. I mean, this is a team that certainly has some good players. Production certainly up. A total of 25 TFL combined between Watson-Trent and Rhodes. Isaac Walker, Deshaun Davis, some young players up front. So this is a defensive line that certainly, I think, was going to be up for the challenge here against this Ohio rushing attack. I think the job's certainly going to be, a little bit easier for them. And then you look in the back end, 244 yards per game allowed. Again, I mean, significant improvements from where they were a season ago. 19 touchdowns allowed. Not a great number, especially 4 in their last game. But they do have 13 interceptions. Most of that came in like the middle part of the season. So they've kind of dried up a bit. TJ Smith, though, phenomenal player. Watson-Trent has 2 of those. That man in the middle is just phenomenal for this defense. And, Shamar Barthmillow, he's a great corner, 13 corner pass breakups for him. And the defensive line, they get a good bit of pass breakups as well. They like to get their hands up. DeMille Hickman in the back end, another 9 pass breakups there. So they have some ball hawks here. This is a much improved defense, Nick. And, I think they should certainly be focused for this game. It's only a couple-hour drive to Conway, South Carolina here. I think this defense is a great matchup with all these missing pieces, and it's only the right assumption that they're going to dominate here.
This is a good defense. Like you said, they had a solid game against Old Dominion in the loss. They looked solid in that matchup. There are some solid pieces here. Marquise Watson-Trent is a great leader for this defense. 117 total tackles, a fantastic number there. 13 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 picks, 2 pass breakups. Just kind of a renaissance man, does it all at linebacker. A really talented, physically strong player for this defense, a great leader to have. Terrell Davis, I like him a lot too. 63 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups plus a pick. TJ Smith, 48 total tackles, 3 interceptions, 2 pass breakups for him. Shamir Barthrow, 13 pass breakups, 31 total tackles, and a pick. So they do have some nice production in the secondary. Isaac Walker, 7 pass breakups, 24 total tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. They do get in the backfield. They have some nice sack production between Watson-Trent and some other guys deeper down the depth chart like Walker and Deshaun Davis, who has 6.5 tackles for loss and 2.5 sacks. This unit has had some issues throughout the season, right? 29.6 points per game given up is not a phenomenal number, but they've looked better at times in the second half of this season. It's still not a phenomenal defense. When you're playing an offense that's missing so many key pieces, you're going to like what you see out of this Georgia Southern defense. They are going to be motivated for this game, and they got some good senior leaders on this team.
You look at the Bobcats defense, the biggest reason why they could probably win this game is they're just so good on this side of the ball. They've yet to allow over 350 yards in a contest this season. Actually, they only did that once. That was in the win against Western Michigan. That's it, though. They've really been shutting everyone else down. Only gave 183 to Akron, CMU, only 320. Buffalo under 300. 291 in a loss to Miami of Ohio. So they certainly are playing the strongest of competition by any means, but you still got to go out and perform in this conference. Talent is pretty even. And, it really starts with their ability to slow down the run. This is a very polished part of their defense. 96 yards per game allowed in that area. And they also have plenty of playmakers here in their front seven. Bryce Houston, a veteran linebacker, he's been elite, and he's great in all facets for this team. Productive linebacker. He's been great for them for a number of years. Kai Thompson, he's right there second on the team. They have a nice duo there in the middle, very formidable. Bradley Weaver from his defensive end possession, Vonnie Watkins, Ryan Buell. Some veteran linemen that certainly are going a long way in why this team's able to slow down the run so well. 4 players have over 10 tackles for loss. And then Shane Bonner, a veteran, has 7.5 right behind him. And they have nice rotation on this side of the ball. Very happy with what they can do in their front seven. Nick, Ohio's going to have a lot of pressure here to perform on this side of the ball. I think they're going to be on the field for a good bit. Can they maintain that same energy, though, through 60 minutes?
If you have a poor offense and you still want to win games, you better have a great defense. We've seen that with Iowa this year. We see with Ohio here, this offense is not fantastic, but this defense is a great unit. 15.4 points per game is a truly strong number in the MAC. This is a very physical defense that gets the job done. They're a ball hawking unit, 12 interceptions to 12 touchdowns given up through the air. A nice ratio there if you're looking at it. They have some solid tacklers in the backfield. Bryce Houston, the 119 total tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 3 picks. Kind of a do-it-all guy again at linebacker. Great leader. Ryan Buell, 29 total tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Bradley Weaver, 31 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Keenan Thompson, 94 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. Good numbers across the board. They're a very productive unit. They spread out the wealth in the secondary. They have a bunch of guys who are solid in coverage that can really get across the field and make plays. A bunch of guys have 1-2 picks. They spread the wealth there. This is a unit that is physically hard hitting. They're great against the run. Under 100 yards per game on the ground is a fantastic number. I think they have a tough matchup because this is going to be a pass-heavy focus Georgia Southern, but this is still a great unit that could find some success. If this team wants to win this game, they're going to have to get points on defense and get a bunch of stops and let the offense be able to have some time to work with. This Ohio defense is a very strong unit, so I definitely understand why they're getting some love from the ESPN Power Rankings, saying they have a potential. They're the favorite to win this game based off the FPI predictor, and how the spread's been moving a little bit here and there. This is a very phenomenal defense, a very strong unit. Certainly coming out of the MAC.
The secondary only allowed 168 yards per game through the air, 12 total touchdowns to 12 interceptions. That's some good ratio there. And of course, the linebacker Bryce Houston leads the way with his coverage abilities. Torrey Cox, Justin Burchetti at corner. These guys have been pretty locked down for them. They're not as strong at the safety position as the Eagles are, but overall they play very good complementary football on this side of their roster, like what the Bobcats have there. Leading us to the final thoughts on the prediction. For Georgia Southern, biggest key. They've lost 4 in a row. And the QB is turnover prone. Run defense has struggled pretty badly over the last 5 games. And the entire defense for Ohio is playing, but the offense is down significant production. So I'm going to take Georgia Southern in a low-scoring game, 24-20. You have them by a little bit wider of a margin. I certainly think that if they turn it over a couple of times, which is very likely, then Ohio could probably certainly win this game. They probably will, especially if they're playing from ahead. I think the Bobcats will be right where they want to be. But you're going to see about 40-50 passing attempts from Brent here. They have talented receivers. I think those guys are going to win. I think they're going to put enough drives together to make things happen. I think they'll have a couple of short fields as well, so they should easily be able to eclipse 24 points. And they should certainly be able to score enough points to win this contest, Nick. If Ohio didn't lose those guys on offense, I certainly would have picked them because I think that running game is really good. And we still don't know exactly who's going to play. But at the moment, it seems like a lot of their production, they're going to be looking for a new roster to play next year in the portal. So got to take the Eagles here.
I would agree with you. I would take an Ohio if they had their entire full-strength offense. A team that's 9-3 this season, a solid team in the MAC that's really stingy on defense. I like Georgia Southern here to snap out of this losing streak. They beat Georgia State earlier in the season on a Thursday, and since that, it's just kind of been downhill. Some bad losses to Texas State, a close-fought loss to Marshall and Old Dominion, and a blowout loss to App State. But they do score points even in their losses. 27 points against App, 17 against Old Dominion, 33 and 24 against Texas State. So I expect this Georgia Southern team to score some points here, get some points on the board very quickly. If they can limit turnovers, they should cruise through this game. If they turn the ball over a lot, Ohio could certainly have a point. Like I said, if Ohio wants to win this game, they're going to need some defensive turnovers and some huge moments on defense to bring that jolt of energy. I just think Georgia Southern's a more polished team at this point in time, and I think they're going to win this game.
That's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.
These fucking balls are so